Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So we are going to have a great guest calling in from New York. So I'm going to introduce you to him. It's Daniel Yadegar, Dr. Yadegar, MD. He's actually the medical director at HIH, which stands for Holistic Integrative Health in Palm Beach. So good morning, Dr. Yadegar.
Good morning, Anita.
I'm so glad that you're calling. Is it cold in New York?
You know, it's not too bad for this time of year, but it's certainly colder than it is in Florida.
Right, in Palm Beach. Well, we're glad that you're able to get up and to do this. And I have to compliment you on the most wonderful speech that you made at our Cure Symposium at FAU. I guess it was, last week?
It was last week. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And, you know, Anita, anytime I get to spend with you is quality time.
Oh, thank you. You're very, very kind about that. But it's really what you do to spend with your patients. That's the time that's so valuable. So I'd like to get into something. When you and I were talking the first time, I really listened very carefully about sleep. And I know you have a lot of other things to talk about. We're going to talk about the institute where you're the medical director. But can we just do something on sleep? Because I just think the way you explained it, it's so important.
Yeah, sleep is an uncharted area in health and medicine that people are increasingly starting to recognize the importance of. You know, we talk about diet and exercise, and all those things are incredibly important, but we hear about them all the time. We don't hear as much about the importance of sleep. And many good things happen in the body when you're able to help your body get restorative sleep at nighttime.
Well, when you think about sleep, it's because we're so busy and because a lot of us work and then we get home by the time we eat dinner and we want to watch a little television or something. We wind up falling asleep on the couch and then we get up and then we have to get into bed. And I guess the perfect situation is to come home, dine, and then take a hot bath and then go to bed.
You know, that is really, really important. So much of sleep actually depends on our activity during the daytime. So if people are, you know, under excessive stress during the daytime, are drinking a lot of, or taking in a lot of foods and drinks with caffeine, it's really hard for the brain to slow down and get ready for sleep. So much of sleep hygiene, and we could talk a little bit about that, actually has to do with the decisions we make during the daytime. But certainly at nighttime, to have some sort of routine to dine, enjoy your dinner, to have a warm bath helps. One of the things that happens when you take a warm bath and then go to a cooler, darker area is that the pineal gland, which is the master gland that produces melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, actually starts producing more melatonin. So little cheap, clinical pearl that I share with my patients is that taking a warm or hot bath at nighttime and going into a dark, cooler room, because of the drop in core body temperature, can actually produce that sleep effect.
Yes, you told me that, and I have passed that along to so many people with their mouths open, and I try very hard. Now, when I have to come to the radio show on Saturday morning and I have to get up at 4, I do try to get to bed by 10. So it's not enough sleep, but it's enough, just to get me through this. But most of the time now, I am trying very hard. Thank you very much, Dr. Yadegar, for helping me with that. But that is some concern now. Some people, though, can't get to sleep and they can't stay asleep. I don't have that problem. But what do you tell your patients in that case?
So that's a great question. So we talk about the importance of sleep, and I'm sure there are people who are listening who are like, well, I have trouble getting to sleep, or I can't stay asleep. So I understand that's important, but I can't get there. And I can imagine that would be frustrating. There's different things. I mean, sleep involves a multi-pronged approach. The first approach, as I alluded to earlier in the conversation, has to do with our choices during the daytime. Meditation during the daytime can help. So we don't want the brain to have to slow down and get ready for sleep from a high energy state just within an hour or two. We sort of want to prime our brains to be relaxed and be receptive, even starting through our daytime habits. Avoiding any caffeine after 2 or 3 p.m. would be really important. There's some people who are what we call slow metabolizers of caffeine, in which the caffeine, even in the morning, can be present, to some degree when they're getting ready to sleep. In those slow metabolizers, I would recommend just eliminating caffeine completely. There's certain supplements that can help to induce sleep. We know valerian root is something that for centuries now has been used to help with sleep. So these are all sorts of practices that we can have. A little bit more about the sleep hygiene, and this is incredibly important, is that we want to associate our bed with just sleep. So we don't want to have any iPads or iPhones, or we don't want to eat in bed. Our bed is just the sanctuary for sleep, so we only go there when we're ready to go to sleep.
Yes, and I've said this at our conference, it's sleep and sex, or sleep and talking with your loved one. Or now, how about reading a book before you go to bed? Is that okay if you do that in bed?
I think for people where the reading the book actually induces sleep, I think it's fine. If you're the kind of person who reads the book and it keeps you up, then you're probably better off not doing it in bed. So it really depends on what kind of effect the reading has on your desire to fall asleep.
All right. Well, I want very much, though, and I've been telling so many people about HIH, the Holistic Integrative Health organization that you are the medical director. Why don't you talk a little bit about the founding of it and where it is and what it is? It's really important, I think, to share that today.
Oh, thank you. So HIH, as you said, stands for Holistic Integrative Health. It's a comprehensive, fully diagnostic longevity center on Palm Beach Island with a focus of helping patients be their best selves, mind, body, and soul, and integrating everything that is cutting edge within medicine, from whether it's technologies or the most cutting edge blood testing and biomarkers and testing genomics. There's really no stillness left unturned, and in a way, it's a showcase for all the leading edge technologies that are coming on the market as it relates to health and medicine.
Right, and it's not only, though, but it's very high tech. It's extraordinary, and I saw pieces of equipment there that I've never seen anywhere. So you and then your staff, I mean, you really, this is, we hear of concierge medicine. And a lot of people, of course, have gone to doctors, and what they do is they now get to be able to get their appointments easier, or they have some other kinds of little goodies. But you are a major concierge institute, and I think you could just share some of that about with all your staff and what they do.
Thank you. Yeah, we like to see ourselves as that. We view ourselves as a center of excellence. We have our own high-resolution, low-radiation CAT scan machine. We have all sorts of gadgets that are incredibly impressive in terms of diagnosing things way in advance of what is standard. There's no request that's too small. We make house visits. For instance, if someone has a flu, we will come with an IV drip with micronutrients and vitamins and help them feel better. We refer our patients to the top specialists. For instance, I had a woman recently come in for a second opinion on her aortic valve, which is leaky. And I'm an attending physician at New York Hospital in New York City at Cornell. So I made an appointment for her with the head of cardiothoracic surgery, and I'll be flying up with her to an appointment here in Manhattan to get her heart valve evaluated. So there's really nothing that we wouldn't do for our patients, and we aim to have the highest quality both in terms of patient experience and quality of medical care.
Well, that's an excellent explanation, but I want to go back, way back when you just decided to go to medical school, and now, of course, you're board certified in 3 areas, which is something you can explain. But I just want to know why you really got into medicine. Nowadays we hear doctors complaining about this or that. Who really are you, Dr. Yadegar?
Well, I come from a rich legacy of doctors, so healthcare and serving has been in my blood for a long time. My grandparents, too. My grandparents were physicians. My dad's a physician, uncles, cousins. So it's something I grew up around. So it was a pretty easy thing for me to imagine becoming with the great examples I had around me. I was also a science nerd in high school and a caretaker. I like to help people and help them feel better, and that merger between being very much on the science and curious about the human body and wanting to make an impact and help people. It was the confluence of all of that made it very, very easy for me to decide to want to pursue a career in medicine.
Yeah, and so I'm glad that you're doing that. I just want to tell everybody that we are going to have a health symposium that the Palm Beach Civic Association is putting on, and that's actually on Tuesday, March the 20th, from 10 to, it's running to about 12 now, but 10 to 12 at Bethesda by the Sea. And this has not been heavily advertised throughout Palm Beach County, but more so in Palm Beach with a lot of their, because they have a very huge membership. But I thought I would do this because I just want everyone to hear Dr. Yadegar. He will be the first speaker, and he is so much into natural ways, as a physician, natural ways to be the very best. And actually, the name of the program is taken after my book, Live to Be 100, and in the lifestyle of Palm Beach. So it's kind of a tricky little title there. But you do see a lot of people from, from Palm Beach. And, of course, they live in New York, too. And your idea, I think, is when you're here in Palm Beach, you get to have the same kind of services that you have in New York. Wasn't that one of the reasons that you designed that your longevity center?
Yeah, so continuity of care is incredibly important, and regardless of where our patients are, we're able to take care of them. We actually, within the center, have a whole conference room dedicated to telemedicine. So say someone's in, I'm just going to pick somewhere in Tokyo, they're able to conference us in and for us to go over everything. So, we're a point of care for our patients 365 days of the year, no matter where they are.
Yeah, that is so high tech. It's a little scary, but that's wonderful that you've created that, because you're still a young physician and you have so many years ahead of you. Can you even imagine if you had a magic wand, move forward 25 years, what would medicine be like then? I'm really giving you a trick question.
I mean, it's a tough question, but, the first thing I'd like to say is, I'd hope that healthcare and medicine would be available to everybody. So that, that would be something that would make me very happy. For sure, it's something that's going to, prolong. There's no question that there's a big role in terms of technologies and life extension, with the advent of, stem cell applications and CRISPR technology, which is gene editing of DNA, and all that's in the pipeline. There's no question that we're going to be living longer. But what I hope is that we're not just living longer. I really hope, and my wish is that we're living better, and that we're living a better quality of life with independence, with meaningful relationships, with integrity, with our ability to think for ourselves independently. So I look at that as health span as opposed to lifespan. So I hope that medicine allows us to have excellent lifespan and excellent health span in the decades to come.
That's well put, well said. So now I'm going to ask you something I couldn't ask very many doctors. You very much appreciate a good diet, and we don't want to just lose weight. We want to gain nutrition. So talk about what happens there and what you tell your patients.
So the question of diet comes up very, very often. There's so much confusion in the press out there about diets. There's the Atkins diet, there's the South Beach diet, there's the Mediterranean diet, there's a ketogenic diet. And the truth is that, all of our bodies are designed differently, and the way that we metabolize things and what we need varies from one person to another. So, ultimately, the truth is that there's no one diet that's going to be good for every single person on this planet. There's certain recommendations that seem to prevail as being helpful and intelligent for most people. For instance, eating a high-fiber diet, staying away from processed foods, limiting our intake of saturated fats, being conscious about portion size and calorie intake. So those things seem to be, things that, I'm able to tell everyone, but there's no one diet that fits for everyone. And what we do at HIH is we personalize a diet to each individual patient. So if you have coronary artery disease, the kind of diet that you might need to be on, depending on your blood testing and your family history, is different than someone who's, perhaps pre-diabetic and looking to lose weight, or if someone has an autoimmune disease, their diet might be an anti-inflammatory diet. So it really comes down to the individual person, but nevertheless, there's certain tried and true recommendations that I'm able to make to the masses at large.
Yes, and hopefully, the doctor will, I always say, if you're going to tell people about whether it's getting a hearing aid or whether it's going for hearing testing rather, or other things, that you write it on a prescription pad, because people will adhere to that. But if you just tell them casually, somehow it goes in one ear and out the other.
That's right. The power of the prescription pad.
That's right. And a doctor is funny, and this. It always used to be the doctor's the God and whatever he says. And, of course, we know that's not true now. However, when I say that, it's still pretty true that people probably respect you as a physician more than their kids, than their family, than lots of things. So you hold a lot of power there, sir.
Well, it's a team effort, and I couldn't, I can make recommendations until kingdom comes, but it's ultimately up to the patient, and the patients who succeed are the ones who respect themselves and who want to advocate for themselves. And, I'm there just to inform and guide, and ultimately it's the patients who end up doing the heavy lifting. So I wouldn't be able to do what I do without compliant, motivated patients.
Right. So you are, that's the heavy lifting. That's a very good term. Well, I did have a question about this. So let's say you have a patient who comes in there and there's certain things that you don't have as part of your institute, like a dermatologist or someone that is a, person that has to do other things. So do you have people who you work with? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we're very proud about this. We've taken a lot of time to develop relationships with who we believe to be the thought leaders and the best within each specialty. So whether it's dermatology, dentistry, neurosurgery, cardiothoracic surgery, endocrinology, it doesn't really matter. We've taken the time to really research of who is the best of the best in the South Florida region and who is the best of the best nationally. And we've cultivated those relationships so that if a patient needs subspecialty care, we're able to refer out. We're able to help them get appointments. And, for me and my entire team, it's really important for us to have continuity of care. So we'll speak to the doctor before they go to the referral. We'll get the report afterwards, and we always close the loop so that we're aware. We're sort of like the quarterback. So there's, if a patient goes for referral, we want to make sure that we know everything about that experience, about how that visit went, what recommendations were made, and, make sure to include it in our master chart.
I am so happy to hear that, because that's where the failing comes in. There are patients that go to 2 or 3 different specialists. The primary never knows what's going on, and they don't follow up. So that's really the gem, I believe, of your world.
Yeah, it's really, really important. No stone unturned. I have a patient. I like giving examples because it really helps cement things. I have a patient who had a cap that came off and went to the dentist. The dentist did an examination, and he has 2 teeth that are really pretty much rotten and need to come out and need to get implants. And, I called the dentist. We discussed the plan. We're going to, hold the aspirin for 5 days. what's the pain management plan? What are our options? What should we look for? And I think having that kind of communication allows for the excellent quality of care we hope to achieve in medicine. And, that's my goal for HIH.
I wish that were the goal for all medical practitioners. That's a fabulous goal, because I could see you're on top of it, and maybe there'd be a dentist which you thought was doing the right thing, but then you didn't like it because you could ask the right questions, and if they don't know the right answers, we're going to go to someone else, right?
Yeah, and you wouldn't know that without the phone call.
That's absolutely right, and so we know that's happened. And second opinions. I'll bet a lot of people would love to come to you for second opinions, because you really are on the cutting edge of medicine. I mean, I've heard you, I've seen your background. So are people able to do that with you?
People are able to do that. The way HIH is set up is a membership model. So, through that model, people can happily come in for second opinions, as did the woman who she went actually, just to give you a little bit of background, she went to a cardiologist in South Florida. She had a severely leaky valve. And the cardiologist said, come back in a year. We'll do an echo then. And I looked at the valve. I said, this is a valve that you probably want to operate on within the next 3 to 6 months. You don't want to wait on this because it's going to cause further damage within your heart. And I got a cardiac MRI on her. In fact, I was correct. And we got her plugged up to go to the surgeon in New York City. So, I do second opinions, and I'm happy to do those.
That was an excellent example. I'm sitting here. You can't see me. I'm shaking my head. Yes. That was great. And that does happen, I know. And here you could have saved that woman's life just by being more cautious, being more on top of it, and saying, hey, we better do something quicker than that, so that's great. I mean, that's really I don't know. I don't know so you went to medical school in New York, I believe.
Right. I went to Cornell Medical School,
which is so high rated. And so a lot of it comes from that, but I think a lot of it comes intuitively. And for someone has a big heart and soul as you do, I knew that after I had a couple of talks with you. And I think people don't be afraid if your doctor isn't really doing what you think they should. Then you have to go to another doctor. Sometimes people are so afraid to talk to their doctor or leave their doctor or have a second opinion because they, my doctor will hate me. I mean, that's old-fashioned, isn't it?
I agree with you. When it comes to your health, you need to be your own best advocate. If you get that gut feeling, well, that just didn't feel right or sound right, or I'm not sure. Any really good doctor will respect the fact that a patient is going to go get a second opinion, because it's really not about the doctor, it's about the patient. And if a patient of mine felt like they needed to get a second opinion, I would be so happy to help them. I'd make recommendations. I would, make sure that they had all the forms and testing that they needed to get that second opinion. So at the end of the day, trust that gut feeling. And this particular woman, she was told she had severe aortic valve leakage. She's not a physician. She said, well, this doesn't sound right to just come back in a year and get another echocardiogram. And her gut feeling turned out to be correct. She was absolutely right. Her desire to get a second opinion helped her probably save her life. I mean, I was just the vehicle to sort of do the due diligence and, do the additional testing and really think about it carefully. But it was her gut feeling that got her to me. So whenever you have that feeling and you're not sure whether what you're being told really makes sense, don't hesitate to think about getting a second opinion or digging a little deeper.
And then I know in the few minutes we have left, I have something that's bothered me about all the television advertising for prescription drugs. So isn't it interesting that why would someone go to their doctor and request that they consider giving them a prescription for something? Why wouldn't the doctor do this on his or her own? I really don't understand this method, what's going on now.
Yeah, I think it's the pharmaceutical companies trying to go direct to market and taking prescription drugs and trying to get the patients to ask their doctors to write for those prescriptions. I think it's it's a really kind of low tactic. I mean, ultimately, you'd hope that the doctor is going to decide what's best for you based on their medical knowledge and not being influenced by, a patient seeing something on TV. It just shows the power of television and media and social media and the influence it has in our society. Maybe one of the things that they should, incorporate in med school education is sort of to be a little bit more resilient to those kind of influences. Yes,
I absolutely agree. Thank you. I've been really concerned about that. But I'm so glad that you took the time to call us today. And I'm so looking forward to hearing you on March the 20th, on Tuesday, hearing you and 4 other spectacular people who will be trying to help people, and they'll get to know you. And it is free, as a matter of fact. So I'll tell everybody again, it is at the Bethesda Church by the Sea, which is just a little bit south of the Breakers, and it starts at 10 o'clock. And it's a wonderful organization. I hope they're not mad at me, my telling everybody on the radio, because it's like what I did one time. It was close to Thanksgiving, and I knew some people didn't have a place to go, so I said on the radio, look and come to my house if you don't have a place to go. I had about 30 people come to my house.
Did you? Oh, but that's so sweet.
Yeah, well, that's what I guess I'm going overboard on this too, but I want so many people to meet you and to,
it'll be my pleasure. It'll be so much fun.
You're great, Doctor.
It's even more fun in person and interactive, so please come.
So, Dr. Yadegar, thank you so much. You absolutely are terrific, and I look forward. Have a safe trip back here, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Have a wonderful day. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Dr. Yadegar. Goodbye.
Bye.